Mercy of God today. And I'm telling you, I am grateful for the mercy of God. And we don't get what we deserve because of God's grace. Sometimes people talk about, I just want what I deserve. And I understand the concept if somebody's trying to rip you off or cheat you. But when we boil life down to reality, I don't always want what I deserve. And definitely when it comes to with my sin, I don't want what I deserve, because what I deserve is to spend eternity in hell. But praise be unto God, Jesus Christ came and paid the price on the cross. He was buried, he rose again, so that we could have salvation, so that we could be redeemed, so that we could be made right with God. And I'm thankful for the grace of God that did that, so that we could have salvation. A couple of announcements. Our intentional focus this week is fleeing temptation. heard this news. They were excited about this news. And the Bible tells us they made haste. They got up, they got going quick, and they went and told others about it. They made known the truth that God had told them. But now Luke moves from the manger to the temple. Now understand, the Bible tells us this was 8 days later. 8 days after the birth of Christ, they moved from the manger and they moved to the temple. I will say this, one thing I thought about as I've been going through this and reading it and studying it, is that there was a lot of travel involved in Jesus' early life. In fact, when you look at Jesus' life in general, his ministry, he was constantly on the go and constantly traveling. And I say that to bring this up. They didn't travel in that day like we travel in our day. We get in a car, make sure the air conditioning is on this time of the year. In fact, you might want to crack the windows when you turn the air conditioner on because that heat will hit you in the face. But we get to cool down, we get to drive and ride in automatic transmissions half the time. And they didn't have all that. At best, they were riding on a beast, on an animal. But most of the time, they were walking to these places. There was a lot of movement involved in the life and the ministry of Jesus. But now they go to the temple for a purpose. Jesus is circumcised, and he's presented to the Lord. And there are two saints. One of them we've already been introduced to, Simeon. The Bible tells us here in the verse where we stopped that he was a just and devout man. But there's something common for both of these people, both Simeon and Anna, and it's this: waiting. Now, waiting is not easy. Sometimes we wait for an answer, maybe an answer to prayer. Sometimes we wait for healing. We wait for direction. We wait in the doctor's office. What I think is this is one of those things that shouldn't be as big of a problem as it is to our patients. We wait on hold. I don't know about you, but sometimes I answer the phone and say, "Can you hold, please?" And sometimes the question you have is very brief that they can answer in 2 seconds, But they don't give you a chance. They just go, "Can you hold?" Click. Sometimes they don't even ask that. And boy, you're waiting on hold. And I think we should have a great movement in our world to bring about quality music for hold times. Because I want to tell you, and we ought to outlaw the 10-second loop of music where they just play the 10 seconds every 10 seconds and so forth. But we don't like to wait. Waiting is hard, especially when waiting for hard things, like waiting to be reconciled with someone who we may be estranged from, or if you have a burden that you've been carrying for a long time, waiting for relief from that burden. Maybe it's waiting for healing. Maybe it's waiting for something that is difficult to pass, but there is a kind of waiting that is much deeper than just simply waiting for our circumstances to change. Because that's what we're normally waiting for, is our circumstances to go from bad to good. It is a waiting of faith. In this text, we find Simeon is waiting for the consolation of Israel. We find Anna, which we will get to in just a moment, was waiting and serving in the temple. Something we're going to see in this text is both of these people were looking for God to fulfill what He had promised. And here's the thing we know about God's promises: they will come to pass, but God never promised they're going to come to pass fast. And so sometimes we get in a position to where we have to wait, and we need to wait by faith. When Christ was brought into the temple, they got to see the answer to their waiting. The faithful may wait long, but understand this: when you're depending on the promises of God, you're not waiting in vain. So let's walk through this text and see what it has for us tonight. First of all, I want you to notice that Christ